Morning everyone, it's Marc Bruin from simplifyinglife.com.au. I'd like to share a video today with you about an interesting video I actually watched myself recently, and I watched it a couple of times now because it keeps intriguing me, by a psychology professor in America called Dan Gilbert. Some of you might know him if you're interested in all things counseling. He made a video, a TED video a number of years ago about what he calls the impact bias. And I'll explain that a little bit, and then we'll go into the practical application for counseling about that one. When he talks about the impact bias, he says, look, in evolution we got this massive frontal lobe formed that sets us apart from all the other animals in the planet. And he says, look, that's a good thing, but not always a good thing. It allowed us, something we can do and other animals can't do, is the power to simulate, to create a future or to create a picture of something we want to see without actually experiencing it. And the example he uses is, for instance, it's really easy for us to simulate the experience of onion garlic flavored ice cream and go like, well, that's probably not such a great thing. It probably won't taste that great because onion garlic, we know we can simulate that and it doesn't give us a really good feel. Now, that capability, that capacity in a way, can be used for all sorts of good things, but he says it sometimes hinders us as well, because we tend to, and here's one of the points that I'd like to make for counseling as well, so keep remembering that, and I hope I say it right, I'm not too sure, it always gets me. What we do is we overemphasize the potential positive outcomes or the positive side effects of something good, and we overemphasize the negative effects of something bad, and on the other hand, we underestimate the positive outcomes of something bad, and we underestimate the negative outcomes of something good. Okay, that's cryptic, and it's not exactly what Dan says, but I'll explain. When you think about winning the lottery or actually becoming crippled, maybe paraplegic or whatever, well, which one would you pick? It seems quite logical. Everyone would want to win the lottery because we think, that's a simulation bit, that we will be happier when we win the lottery than we'll ultimately be when we actually become a paraplegic. And science, Dan says, and I've read that many times since, actually proves the exact opposite. We have an emotional resilience, we have an emotional or a psychological immune system that makes us as happy sometime into the future with a negative event as it makes us happy with a positive event. So to put it real simply, when we win the lottery, about 12 months to 18 months later, we are as happy as we would have been if we'd broken our back and became paraplegics. There's not a big difference in levels of happiness after some time with either events, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to make sense, but it is the way it is. So we overemphasize the potential positive side effects of something positive, winning the lottery, and we overemphasize the potential negative outcomes or effects of something that is very negative, like breaking your back, but we're wrong. We're constantly wrong. And in counseling, that's often what I see. So when people are stuck in a bad situation, when they went through hell, when they are feeling really depressed, when they don't know what to do, it always seems to be the case that we catastrophize, we make the potential future with that condition or in that circumstance worse than it probably actually is or is going to be, because we're not taking into account that psychological immune system that we all have. And the same thing with something good. We seem to always say, oh, if only I had the better job, or if only I had some more money, or if only my relationship was better, or if only I wasn't depressed and I was happy, then life would be good. And apparently it's just not true. So we create this major rift in ourselves because we think something good will actually make us happy or happier, and something bad will make us feel absolutely totally crap. And down the track, science shows, and my counseling experience and my personal experience, I must admit as well, shows us that that's just not true. A second thing that Dan talked about as well, Dan Gilbert, is that actually that psychological immune system, you know, that capacity of ours to create happiness, and he calls that synthesized happiness. So you got natural happiness, you know, something happens and I'm happy, or the happiness that we create because we think about stuff and we put a different perspective on things, or we start to look at things in a different light. That synthesized happiness, that emotional psychological immune system works better, and that's his the outcome of his studies, but also again sort of counseling truths in that sense as well, when what we have come across is irreversible. You know, so something that happens that we cannot undo anymore. So something like becoming a paraplegic, for instance, that's a good example. So when we become a paraplegic, that's, well, at least for, you know, the foreseeable time, until they can fix it. But now is a permanent thing. It's just what you're faced with. If you go bankrupt, that's it. If you lose your partner, whether it's losing them through divorce or separation, or losing them as in, you know, dying, or other forms of loss, that's it. They're gone. Now, our immune systems seem to work better. Our psychological immune systems seem to work better when the situation we're faced with is irreversible. If there's still a level of choice left, that emotional immune system doesn't seem to work so well. We you know, teeter and totter. We sort of seesaw between one option and the next. So when counseling clients come to me and say, look, I've been faced, or I have to face, or I've been dealt this terrible blow, or I've been faced with this terrible loss or situation I can't undo anymore, from a counseling point of view, that's actually a good thing, you know, purely from a counseling point of view, because we can work with that. Science tells us that, you know, within no time flat, 12 to 18 months, we'll probably be as happy as we were before. And science also says that we probably catastrophize the negative ongoing ripple effects of what has happened to us, and we can work on undoing that. And it also says that what we think would be better actually is not that great per se at all. It doesn't add too much to our, you know, sense of happiness. So how does that work in counseling? Well, counselors, if they're good counselors, they already have that knowledge. They know that that is how it works, and we can work with that. Therefore, counseling is useful in that sense, because there is this meta knowledge, this meta level where we can say, look, let's look at this situation and let's now find out, first of all, how you think about that, or how do you think life is going to be 12 to 18 months from now, and see if we can change your perspective on that a little bit if the outcome doesn't seem too great. But also let's look at what actually is working and how we can make more of that, and how to give you a different perspective on life altogether, because there is a fair chance that you will feel better down the track. And there's also a fair chance that if something is irreversible, your psychological immune system will actually work even better for you. You know, so keep that in mind. So counseling from that point of view works really well, especially if things are irreversible. Strangely enough, it seems a major paradox, but it definitely seems to work that way. Dan Gilbert's video on TED, you know, so look it up on YouTube. It's a TED talk. It's absolutely cool. DANGILBERT, Dan Gilbert. And I think if you type in impact bias on Google, you'll find it easily. It's worthwhile watching, but keep it in mind. And it really, for me as a counselor, it goes well with the concept talked about in Course in Miracles and other thought systems. It's about changing the way we look at stuff that changes the stuff we look at. The way we look at stuff determines how the stuff looks. And if we don't like what we see, we got to start changing our thought systems in order to start seeing different things, and it really works that way. If you want to know more, as always, feel free to contact me, email, phone, you know where to find me, Facebook, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a good one.